Welcome to Larry's Library, and welcome to another Top 10 Tuesday. This time, we're looking at the year 1988. Not only was it a great year for comic books, it was a great year for music and movies. And before I get into the comics, let's take a quick look at some of my favorite music and movies of that year. Robert Plant released Now and Zen, like that one. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts released Up Your Alley. That was pretty great. Living Color, they had Vivid come out in 88. U2's Rattle and Hum, probably my favorite U2 album maybe. The Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 came out for that supergroup. REM's Green was a 1988 release. Guns N' Roses' Lies. I waited in line at Best Buy for that one. I think before they opened. I can't remember. Might have been at night. It might have had a midnight release. Jane's Addiction, Nothing Shocking. One of the greatest albums of 88 right there, for sure. Film-wise, it was also killer. We had Who Framed Roger Rabbit by Robert Zemeckis. We had John McTiernan's Die Hard. The first one was 1988. David Zucker's Naked Gun. The first Naked Gun film was 88. Tim Burton's Beetlejuice. I mean, come on. Was that the best of 88? Not sure, but it was up there for me. Wes Craven's The Serpent and the Rainbow was a 1988 release. David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, another great one. John Carpenter's They Live. Yeah, that's probably better than... well, is it better than Beetlejuice? I mean, Beetlejuice had Winona Ryder, so that's a toughie for me. I don't know. Oliver Stone's Talk Radio was also 1988. That's kind of a hidden gem, I think. At least seems that way today. And it's particularly prescient with some of the stuff that's happened in social media and podcasts and whatnot, But that's a whole other video. So I was 20 years old in 1988, and these are my favorite comic books of that year. These are my top 10 favorites of 1988. At number 10, I've got Marvel Fanfare number 36. And the story, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, this was the main story took up the whole issue here instead of the normal where they have a couple of small ones together. This was written by Alan Zelenetz, pencils and inks by Charles Vess. And that's the standout feature here, the Charles Vess art. Fantastic. This was a Warriors 3 thing, if I remember right. At number 9, I have DC's The Weird. And this was a 4-issue miniseries written by Jim Starlin with pencils by Bernie Wrightson, inks by Dan Green, cover by Wrightson. Just fantastic stuff here. And, a lot of what happened in that probably went over my head lore-wise because I'm not a huge DC guy. But Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrightson just can't miss. And this, like its title, this was a weird one. But I loved it. Number 8 is another DC book, Sword of the Atom Special number 3. Came out in 88. This one was written by Jan Sternad. Might have the last name wrong. I'm not sure about that one. Pencils by Pat Broderick. Inks by Dennis Junke. Love Pat Broderick, and I love the Sword of the Atom. I love all the Sword of the Atom stories I've read. Just love that stuff. And like I said, this is coming from a mainly Marvel guy, but I did love Sword of the Atom. At number 7, I have Havoc and Wolverine Meltdown. This was a miniseries, I think 4 issues or 2 issues. I'm not sure now, but it was a mini. It was in that kind of terrible binding prestige square-bound format, which was nice cardstock, semi-cardstock pages. So it made a nice presentation, but it was a bit of a mousetrap. I mean, it would just close up on you. Not the best reading experience, but this was a good story. It was really fun. Written by Walter and Louise Simonson. Husband and wife team on that one. But the painted art by John J. Muth and Kent Williams was glorious in this one. So if you haven't seen that, I'm sure it's available in other formats. Check that out if you can. At number 6, I have Black Panther, the 4-issue miniseries from 1988. This was written by Peter B. Gillis with pencils by Dennis Cohen, inks by Sam De La Rosa. Love De La Rosa's inks, and they work pretty good here on Dennis Cohen's pencils. Yeah, love the Black Panther, and I remember really loving this mini. At number 5, right in the middle of my top 10 countdown for favorite comics of 1980, I've got the original graphic novel Hercules Prince of Power Full Circle. And this is written and drawn, and I think inked also. Yeah, the art, the writing, everything is Bob Layton, legendary Iron Man artist. And for me, for my money, he is the best Hercules writer and artist that ever was. This is a great one. This continues along from the other two miniseries. I believe it's third after the first mini, and then the second one that he did. And I just loved it. This is Hercules, and it's set in the future. I forget how far, but anyway, it's great. If you love Hercules and you like Bob Layton, man, you've got to get a hold of these Hercules. It needs to be an omnibus. There needs to be a Hercules by Bob Layton omnibus, and just put all that in there. All the stuff he's ever done on Hercules. Great, great, great stuff. If you've watched many of my videos, you probably heard me go on about this before, but I'm going to mention it again because it's appropriate here. It's too bad that Marvel, the MCU, the cinematic universe of Marvel, have really screwed up Thor and Hercules. What I mean is, we can never have Bob Layton's vision of Hercules be on the silver screen because Marvel gave that personality to Thor. I mean, that's the facts. Thor in the comic books, I mean, maybe more recently this has happened, but through most of my lifetime, Thor in the comics was not a party guy. He was not a hellraiser. He was not a party, a beer-drinking party dude. That's Hercules. That's Bob Layton's Hercules. And now, what are you going to do? I mean, it was like Thor was the straight man to Hercules in most of the comic books from, the 60s, 70s, 80s, probably into the 90s some. So what are you going to do now that Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is this partying buffoon? Well, that's Hercules' personality, so yeah. But that's, what are you going to do? At number 4, I'm going to catch a little grief for this one. Because, I mean, you could make the argument that the story doesn't hold up because of the kind of misogynist elements, the bad treatment of women. But I'm talking about Batman the Killing Joke. This is number 4 for me. It's written by Alan Moore, artist by Brian Bolland, I believe it's pronounced. I've been saying Bolland the whole life, but I'm pretty sure it's Bolland. This is such a masterpiece of comic book art. So, I mean, even if you discount the story entirely, which we could argue about that, that's, there's fair criticism about the story for modern times, for sure. But the artwork is so beautiful, so detailed, so lush. Oh, just magnificent. This thing, even if it had no words, if it had no story, just the art alone elevates this thing to pure comic book art. This is comic book art on another level. I mean, and that's why it's number 4 in my countdown of favorites from 1988 in the comic book world. This is available. It's been reprinted over and over and over, and it still remains in print. You can get this in a variety of formats. I mean, just any size you want, any shape, it's out there. And you need to experience it. You really do. At number 3, I have Wolverine, technically Volume 2, but this is actually his first ongoing series. This is issue number 4. And, of course, this is written by Chris Claremont, pencils by John Buscema, Big John, inked by Al Williamson. What a killer combo. Big John, inked by Al Williamson. Magnificent. This is the first appearance of Bloodsport and Roughhouse. This team that, oh man, 2 of my favorite Marvel supervillains of all time, I think. And they made their debut here. Bloodsport is this terrible vampiric creature. And Roughhouse is his big burly partner who is super strong. And I think he had some vaguely Asgardian origins, if I remember right. But he's an immortal and he has super strength. And he's just a brawler, just a crazy brawler. Anyway, they're a great team, and that's why that sticks out in my head as one of my favorites from 1988. Number 2, I have issue 1 of that same series, Wolverine, ongoing series, issue number 1. This is same team, written by Chris Claremont, pencils by the great John Buscema, and inked by Al Williamson. This set up his long, long, ongoing, never really ended series, and it is a great one. Check out that cover. Magnificent. But what's number one? Well, number one is Silver Surfer Parable. This was originally a 2-issue miniseries on Marvel's Epic imprint, and this was written by Stan Lee with art by Moebius. Finally, we get to see the Silver Surfer and Galactus drawn by Moebius, and it is otherworldly. This is a great story and fabulous, fabulous comic book art. It's a combination that a lot of people never thought we would see. You know, you've got this very American Stan Lee, the face of Marvel, the father of the Marvel Universe, him and Jack Kirby, never would leave him out, with art by this fantastic European artist, best known probably here in the States for his work on heavy metal, but here you go, you got them together doing some cosmic greatness, and that's why it's number one. This is like The Killing Joke. This one has been reprinted over and over and over in various formats. I recommend you get the gallery edition. That's how I have it, because it gives you that gigantic art, beautiful, beautiful art in that big format. I think I might have done a review of that. I don't know. I'll check my catalog. If I did, I'll link it above. But yeah, I have the gallery edition of this, and that's the one I recommend you go after. But whatever format you get it in, if you've not read this before, you are in for a treat. It is fantastic, and that's why it's my number one favorite comic book of 1988. Let me know what your favorites are below, or do any of these make your list? And I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Subscribe if you haven't already. It helps.